welcome to the Vlogging Pod. Today we are joined by Adam Stark, author of The World's Worst Murder Detective. Hello, Adam. How are you today?
Great. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Welcome everyone to the room. I had to start a few things, so I didn't notice everybody enter, so my apologies. Usually I'm a little more on the board with that. So as usual, Adam, I did a little bit of investigating into your past.
Wonderful.
Does that scare you or delight you?
Delight.
Wonderful. Um, so tell me about the 12th largest state in the U.S., Minnesota.
Well,
You go
I
ahead.
love it and hate it at the same time. It's got everything I want and everything I hate all in one place.
Oh, well, okay. So tell me about the loves first.
Well, me personally, I do love all the seasons. I can find ways to have fun in any season. Some people absolutely hate that, but man, is it a lot of labor at the same time. Like you gotta ice your cars all the time to get the ice off, stuff like that.
Well, I can relate. I do. We live in Ohio, so we do get a little bit of the ice. So I can relate. Okay, so tell me, is that just one of the hates the whole winter, or are there more?
Just the maintenance stuff. But I do like to have fun in the winter. I mean, I'll go sledding and do all sorts of stuff I probably shouldn't do at my age, but do anyway.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, so were you born and raised there? Or,
Yes.
okay, you were born and raised there. All right. Okay, so like I said, I did a little bit of research and I realized you were married in September of 2013.
Correct.
And
Yes.
I can't talk. 3 short years later, you published Going Live in 3, 2, what? Ex-
Yes.
Explain to me the challenge. Explain to me as if I'm totally ignorant, okay? As if I've never wrote a book in my life. Explain to me the support of family as a writer.
Well, I'll tell you the sad part about this is it was really my grandmother, and she passed on. So
Okay.
she absolutely loved books. She's read more books than anybody I have ever met in my life. It got to the point where she would like fold a page in the book at the library so we know that she read it. And there was a point in time when we couldn't find one that she hadn't read.
In your own
So
personal library or like.
yes. No, no, I mean at the public library at our city. Like when we go to, because she likes specific, she likes either romance stuff, which I don't care for, or mystery stuff, which I love. And at one point we were just, it took us forever to find something she hadn't read. So it was like that was the best support because it was really cool to hear from her, someone who's read so much in her lifetime. So it was like the most honest, critical possible help I could have gotten.
Nice. Nice. Um, so your grandmother, she's still with us?
No,
Oh,
she unfortunately passed on.
I'm very sorry to hear about that. So your
Sure.
grandmother was your real supporter. How did the rest of the family perceive you as a writer? I mean, after all this time doing other things, and all of a sudden you're switching it up. I mean, was it a total sticker shock? Were they like, "Oh man, you can't do that," or were they like, "Oh yeah, you go for it. You have the skill set."
Well, I think the thing is they get lost in the the public library of things I've done because I probably make like I don't know 4 to 5 whole songs a year and just random skits and stuff. And then if I have a book, it's like once every 2 years, so it's very easy to get lost. That oh yeah, he did make a book last year. It's kind of it happens like that. I would say.
Right. Okay, so you say it takes you 2 years to write a book. So, do you do novels, or are they more novellas, and you just take your time to do you research and nurture, or which is that?
So I wanted to make each book entirely a different experience, with the exception of the World's Worst Murder Detective series. I did not plan on making a sequel, but something hit me and I went with my instincts and said, yeah, I got to make a sequel on that one.
Okay. Okay, so no matter your support or struggles that you have published, you went ahead and pushed yourself to publish 6 books from 2016 to 2019. Do I have that right?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
okay. Which would you say that stands out more for you as a writer?
Oh, definitely the comedy books, these ones, because you can see most of myself in the character, the main character, Powen.
Okay, so that is your detective series that you're saying is a comedy?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay.
And I should say too, I always forget that I did my first book in 2016 because I started writing it in 2015. It took me a year, which is the longest it ever took me. And so I always think in my head it was 2015, but it wasn't.
Yeah, that was going live in 3, 2, what? Um,
Yes.
just because you mentioned it, this wasn't where I was going, but I always like to let the interview take us wherever we're going to go. And since you mentioned it, um, this is Jack. Now, I'm going to mispronounce the last name. Racine,
Racine.
Racine Anchorage has a master degree on his wall collecting dust. He lives alone in the middle of nowhere. He hosts a radio podcast. What? What? A show that caught the attention of some very dangerous people. However, a very unlikely person comes to help and tells Jack the cold, hard truth. The investigating Jack was doing is a very serious threat to everyone. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes. So I have the advantage of I have read so many books in my life, too many,
Mm-hmm.
and I've seen way too many movies, more than I ever should, to be honest. And so, having seen all of these, I was like, you know what? If I'm going to make a book, because this is my first one, granted, I said, I'm going to make it and it's not going to remind you of anything else for that reason alone, because I've seen it all. So, I didn't want it to remind you of, oh, this reminds me of the twist from this book or this movie or whatever. No, I wanted to make sure to get it right. And so, I worked really hard on making action sequences that are very detailed, but they won't remind you of all the boring ones you get all the time from other movies that sometimes it's like monotonous and you're just used to it. It's like not even new anymore, when you see the new blockbuster movie of the year or whatever. And so I worked really hard on making them very original, but I also worked really hard on making this as suspenseful as I possibly could.
Good. Um, if you go back and you watch this video, I cringe a little bit. That's not because of you. there's there's some thunder going on, and I don't know if you can hear it, but it's really loud. um, you probably since you didn't react, so you probably didn't hear it. But trust me, you can hear it on my side. Okay, so speaking of your writing, let's slow a bit of a talk about your process. I hear you write the ending first. I mean,
Yes.
how does that work for you? I was like, what? He does what?
Yes, it is a funny coincidence. That's how I write most of my songs too. See, my second book, I wasn't even planning on making a second book. I was just gonna make my one book and just to say I did it and be proud of it and then shut up about it. But literally, I was working one night and I thought, whoa, I was like, this ending I just thought of, this is a good ending. I was like, I need to make another book now and write a story about it.
So you just kind of work backwards. I mean,
Yes.
I that astounds me. That astounds me. Um, Okay, so tell me about like I mean, okay, so you write the ending out. Do you use a storyboard? Do you put the ending in the center and then just kind of focus around that?
Oh, so what I do is I take my digital notepad on my phone, whatever phone I have at the time anyway, and I will literally write down just briefly every idea I have that I do not want to forget to put somewhere in the book. And the ending is always going to be on the bottom because it's like where I start,
Right.
and then I just indent, go upward, and etc.
I used to do a storyboard way back when I first started with my very first series. And somehow, somewhere along the line, it kind of just got discarded. I think I might still have it around here somewhere. It was just like a white cardboard, and I had all the post-it notes everywhere. So that's why I specifically asked, because I wanted to know how that worked for you. If like made it easier to focus and go into the ending better, or what? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I always feel like the ending to me is if the ending is bad, then it puts a downer on the movie. It's like automatically the movie could be great, but then it's going to get a B if the ending sucks. And I always strive for those really amazing Alfred Hitchcock type of endings. I always try and just make it an astounding experience right at the end, especially.
right. I can see that. I mean, if it has a bad ending, I'm going to be like, oh, that just sucked. But when I'm reading a book, um, if it doesn't have enough in the beginning to pull me in, it just loses my interest right at the beginning. Do you know what I mean? If it does,
That's true.
so it depends, but everyone's different. Some people like everything set up and slowly moving along in the story. I prefer a lot of action to grab me and pull me in, and you're like, what the beep beep just happened?
Yes, for sure.
So I found a quote from you in 2016. Do you mind if I repeat it?
Oh, absolutely, by all means.
Okay. I go for something that cannot be explained. Now, this was referring to your cover work. Does this still hold true, or has the years changed this opinion?
So I one thing I've always lived by when it comes to good movies and books, not even just saying my own, but I always say usually, not always, but usually if it takes you more than one sentence to describe how good it is and to explain the story and the plot, the motifs, etc., it's probably amazing. And so I like to give people that depth of you've really got to think and read between the lines here when it comes to something Adam Stark is putting out.
Okay, so with that in mind, tell me what we're seeing on this cover on the world's worst murder detective.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, coincidentally, this would be the most simplistic cover of
Okay.
all. But it's just to show you right away, you're getting into something funky when you got. I always Photoshop myself in every cover of my book. That's a given. But I also put in this one very specifically ear with a line through it, so he's got a hearing problem, and then a brain with a line through it, so he's not the smartest. And then of course you got the mug shot that shows you, okay, there's a lot to tell here.
Well, that is different. I mean, have you found that making your covers unique like this brings more of an interest to your book?
That is my hope. I think so, but I can't judge, I guess, but I hope so.
Well, that's all we really can do, right?
Right.
Um, let's see. Mm, okay, I noticed something else. You have a favorite book. Well, you had a list of them, but one that I was most curious about was 1984. Can you
Yes.
elaborate to me why that is your favorite?
Yes, because and first of all, anybody listening, don't watch the movie, please. For the love of God, don't watch the movie 1984. It does not do it justice at all. But It's really crazy about all the things that George Orwell said that has come true. Most of them, unfortunately, come true. But there's just so many things in there, so many just astonishing predictions and things. And this was written in the 30s. Like,
Wow.
it's mind blowing how much of the things he said came to fruition. And it was also a book that my dear friend Jeff showed me. He passed away, but he showed me this, and my life changed. I was like, oh my word.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about the plot of the book. I mean, give me a little more details about 1984.
I'll tell you, to be honest, it was like 9 years ago when I read it last. It was so long ago,
Okay.
but I just remember the things he was saying about like the Queen of England and stuff, that just astonishing things that blew my mind, and it just intrigued me. And just the way to look at the world differently than we're taught to look at the world is kind of what I took from it, at least at the time. I should definitely reread that now that you mention it.
Okay. So now I'll be honest with you. I found this on your interview that you have listed on Smashwords.
My self interview.
Your self interview. Yeah, I found that interesting. And like I said, I like to go through and take little notes and notations. Now, you do have a few other books here that you say that your favorite. I'm just trying to find a little bit more about you, where your interests lie. So you have Give a Boy a Gun,
Hmm.
Silence of the Lambs, Tupac's Journal, 1984, of course, and Brave New World. Now, if you had to pick only just one of those books, which would be your favorite?
I'm gonna have to go with "Give a Boy a Gun" by Todd Stracer. I might be
Okay.
saying his name wrong, but just for nostalgic reasons, I read that in junior high,
Uh
and
huh.
I make a point to read it once every few years. But it made me like reading. No other book really made me care about reading until that one.
Okay. And why is that?
I thought it was kind of cool how what he did was he took a very tragic situation, albeit, but he took that and he decided to put every character getting their own perspective. And I just thought it was really, but not in like a bad way, not like a convoluted, like I'm lost kind of way, but in like a
Right.
way I could totally understand.
Right. Okay. I can understand that. Okay. So, with all the paths you've traveled with your passions as a writer, and tell me the other few that you got listed. The few other career paths that you chose that kind of linger with the rhymes and the words.
Oh, yes, being an MC.
Uh huh.
Yes, that is first and foremost my main talent. That will always be my best personal talent, and I've done that for over a decade. So that's kind of that'll always be the number one thing about me.
Okay.
Well, want me just to say how I started or anything, or
A little bit. I wanted a little bit more detail about that.
sure, yeah. Well,
It.
basically, I've always been a fan of old school and some underground hip hop. I hate mainstream rap, and I hate everybody after the year 2000.
Mm-hmm.
And but basically, I was such a fan. I said, "Man, I want to be one." But everybody says that, and so I said to myself, even at a young age, if I can't do it well, then I'll just quit, and then I'll just continue being an audience member and listen.
Right.
But when I started really writing down rhymes, really working on learning figurative language and how to do things like write paradoxes, illusions, entendres, metaphors, and all sorts of things, I said, whoa, okay, I'm doing great. And then I decided that's going to keep being my thing. And then it developed into also being a freestyle MC, which is the art of impromptu, off the top performing where you just keep a rap going. And a lot of people say they do that, but I say here's the difference: anybody can rhyme,
Mm-hmm.
anybody, but it takes a master to actually rap.
Okay, so an MC. I mean, You're playing. It's got my. Is it kind of like a DJ in the sense for clubs?
Unfortunately, no, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
I'd probably be more famous that way, though.
Well, I thought I'd ask.
No, it's just writing a verse, showing it off to your friends. I mean, that's how it starts.
Uh-huh.
And then it's put it on online and then show people. And I tell people, criticize me, look at my lyrics, really, really look at them, read them. You can see exactly what I'm doing. And you might miss something could go over your head. And you see how I type in the lyrics and I put them in parentheses for multiple meanings.
Uh-huh.
And you go, oh, I didn't even notice that. I didn't even peep that when he said it. Very spoken word style. And then freestyling is another big thing, of course, because anybody can rhyme. But when I'm really putting compound syllable rhyming together and just creating stories out of thin air seamlessly, and I can do that all the time and I put it online and stuff, that's the type of thing that I like to show, showing my talent.
Right. Okay, so when you're emceeing, does that go along with your YouTube channel? Would you consider that?
Yes,
Okay, so you're showcasing it, is what your emceeing is.
that's a perfect way to put it, actually. Yes,
Okay. All
showcase.
right. Okay. Now I'm following you. I'm following you now. Okay. We're only a few minutes over, but I want to ask you one more final question. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you followed your passions, your MC and letting the hip hop music move you along, tell me one chosen path that you've always been back, even as a writer before that. Something creatively bound that you've wanted to do and still haven't, but you just might.
Oh, yes. Okay, that is 100%. And I'm a perfectionist, so I don't know when this will ever happen. But 100%, I plan on making this book series, the World's Worst Murder Detective series, into an actual full blown film.
Oh, okay.
Because that would be awesome. I would love to see people I know in it, random people I don't know, acting in it, and I would love to show it because it's showing courtroom stuff, detective stuff in a new light that's never been done before.
That's very interesting. Well, I want to thank you very much, Adam, for being on the show tonight.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
well, it's my pleasure. It was a joy to have you on. I want to thank our audience for coming in every time we have one of these shows. It really means a lot. I thank you so much. I wish you guys a wonderful evening. Stay tuned to next Tuesday. We're going to have a little bit of a special treat. We're going to have two authors in one interview. And we just might do a little special something extra for Facebook. So please stay tuned. Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in. Bye bye for now.